We will start the class. My name is Sai Kumar. As previously, I have worked in NRI Institute of Technology. So, for the purpose of teaching ground improvement techniques, I allotted by Sir Hitendra Reddy sir, so that I will take these ground improvement techniques classes for final years. This is the one of the elective subject which was prescribed by University of Jntuk, so that in the ground improvement techniques is totally related to geotechnical engineering. That means geotechnical engineering you are studying in our third year second semester, and in present semester also you are studying as GTE2. So that somewhat relevant to this GTE, that means geotechnical engineering, and some sort of subject is from engineering geology also. That means the soil structure and top layers and middle layers and different properties of the soils and rock strata, soil strata, all those are from geology, and main soil properties from geotechnical engineering. By using those properties, we have to study these ground improvement techniques. This is one of the advanced subjects in geotechnical engineering. That means while we are traveling on different kinds of roads and in transportation systems, we have to observe these ground improvement techniques. That means definitely in hilly areas. That means when we are going in these hilly areas, we will observe different kinds of embankments and pedestrians and other soil walls. Those are constructed nearby the roadways to prevent these accidents occurring due to this ground movement. That means layers by layers the ground is moving due to tectonic waves and other seismic accelerations. In some cases we are having flowing of water in rainy seasons. Like that we are having a different sorts of problems. Due to those problems, the top layer of the soil will be eroded in different ways due to weather or any external parameters. We need to control those erosion. Okay, to control those erosion, we have to apply different kinds of these ground improvement techniques to protect the topmost soil layer. Why? Because if the topmost soil layer is not proper, so that we don't have to accessibility for transportation purpose and irrigation purposes sometimes, because we are having a huge amount of water to store for our daily consumptive purposes and agricultural purposes, so that we are building a huge amount of dams and other retaining walls, canals and other water storing structures. All those needs these ground improvement techniques to control the erosion of top layers. So that this is the one of the important subject for extremely civil engineering purpose. First of all, we need to have this introduction. This is the need why we need have to apply these soil ground improvements. That means one of the structure which was, this is the Pisa tower. The entirely tower is bented due to some weak structural properties. That is, the ground is not properly densified. First of all, you need to know the term densification. The term densification, the properties of the densification mainly depends upon the soil structure and the soil strata, and then another one is the densification mainly depends upon the surrounding atmosphere conditions and topography of the topography of the particular area also depends upon this densification and other things. So that in a particular structure we are having some amount of ground improvement techniques are not necessary, so that the entire structure will bend like a bend in a single direction. And nearby we are having two another structures. Okay, in the two structures also some of the buildings are collapsed in a particular proper improper manner. That means because of poor soil properties. In the third image we are having soil liquefaction. Soil liquefaction, that means the total amount of soil will be moved downwards due to liquefaction techniques. That means liquefaction means whenever there is a flow of water beneath the surface of the ground level. That means beneath the surface means below the surface of the ground level we are having a flowing water. In such cases, the entire water will be eroded in downward direction. That means not upward direction, downward direction with the help of this groundwater and other internal parameters, so that the soil liquefaction can came here. These are the three examples why we need ground improvement techniques or soil improvement techniques for such kind of buildings and other important structures. These are the best examples. That means seeing examples. Different methods we will involve in this soil improvement are, these are the three major techniques. That means first of all we have to discuss about this ground reinforcement. That means ground and reinforcement. These two words are having different subjects. So first thing means ground is involved in the GT, that means geotechnical engineering. 1 and 2 both subjects we are having this ground word. And next one, reinforcement. This reinforcement is entirely related to design and drawing of concrete structures. That means DRCS. Okay, DRCS. And another subject we are facing in our 4 2 semester. That means pre-stressed concrete. In the pre-stressed concrete also you are having term reinforcement. By using these two subjects, you will have to acquire your knowledge on reinforcement. In the ground reinforcement, the mainly ground reinforcement means with the help of soil proper soil particles, and reinforcement means here we are having not only respect to steel, not respect to steel. That means we are not using entire reinforcement as steel. Some part of reinforcement is we are using as a steel material, another part is we are using some amount of plastics. That means non-degradable plastics, those we are using to improve the ground properties. First one we are building here stone columns. Normally RCC we are having long columns and short columns depending upon L by D ratio. That means we are calling it as slenderness ratio. Depending upon slenderness ratio, below less than 12, greater than 12, we are having long column and short column. Like that we are having here stone columns. These stone columns are entirely useful for the structural stability of a particular structure. That means whenever there is a important structure, those structure will have to withstand for a huge span of life. That means normally structures are having 70 to 100 years of lifespan. Whenever there is a important structures like dams and other structural parameters depends upon those, like bridges and other culverts, those things are very much useful in our daily life for conserving hydrological parameters like water and other structures, so that they are important to us. So that those to stabilize those kind of structures, generally we build this type of stone columns as a foundation for those. And the next one we are having is the soil nails. That means these soil nails are normally used in hilly areas to control the soil drainage. That means soil drainage means whenever there is a rainy season, in the rainy season the top layer of the soil will be eroded along with the water due to lack of vegetation and green cover on particular area, so that the total water and these soil parameters are eroded, and those will be slipped on the particular transporting systems, that like roads and other mediums. In some cases we are having blocking of drains and others also due to this soil erosion, so that we need to control those soil erosion by using this soil nails and other parameters. And next one, third one, we are having micro piles. These micro piles are used in the construction purpose below the foundation level. Normally in the structures we are having foundation to transfer the stresses which are developed due to the loads acting on it. That means in the structural numbers we are having different kinds of parts. From the top level we are having a slab, after that we are having a beam, after that column, after that we are having foundation. The total load which rests on slab will be transferred from one part to another part. In those transportation we will have to face a small amount of stresses. Those are internally developed due to external actions of this load transferring from one part to another part. That means simply movement of load. There are two different kinds of load: dead loads, live loads, and others. Those are different kinds of load due to those movements. It means dead load can't move, but due to movement of these live loads and external atmospheric parameters like wind and others, we have to face few amount of stresses which are developed internally in the structure. Those stresses will be developed from one part to another part. Like top to bottom, we are having stress formation. Those stresses will be transferred to the footing. From footing to the stresses will be transferred to the soil, so that if the stress distribution is proper, the structure will be withstand for a long time. If the stress distribution is not regular, that means entire structure will be tend to failure by simply giving some amount of cracks on different locations of the structure, like these beam column joints and bottom part of the slab and another column sections where cripplings and bucklings also occurs due to this stress distribution. To increase those stress distribution, we have to use these micropiles for different purposes like stress distribution. Next one we are having is the jet grouting. This grouting terminology will have to face in concrete technology. Normally, grouting means huge amount of force will be applied on cement concrete paste with respect to any external object. That means, for suppose in hilly areas, the top layer will be grouting with the help of the cement concrete paste. Some amount of external additives and admixtures and super plasticizers and alternatives are used for rapid hardening of those concrete paste. This kind of mechanism is called normally we are grouting. This grouting, we need high raised mechanized equipment. That means we need to pump with a certain amount of force, so that we need a mechanized equipment for force pumping of this concrete and cement pastes. Next one we are having a ground anchors. That means ground anchor. Normally anchors are used to So anchors are used to relay particular load on a particular position. That means without proper improper super elevations and not super elevations, eccentricities like that. To counteract these eccentricities, normally we are using these ground anchors for different structures. Next one, geosynthetics. That means synthetic means polymeric material. Polymeric material means normally in the organic chemistry we are having alkanes, alkenes, and alkynes. Right? CnH2n like that we are having plastic synthetic materials. Those synthetic materials are nowadays we are using in the concrete materials to improve the compressive strength and increase the flexural properties and split tensile properties of different elements of the structure. Why? Because nowadays we are having huge amount of wastage coming from the industries, so that we need to use those industrial wastes as a part of our construction. Why? Because nowadays construction industry is a lifelong and ever growing and green industry. That means for, throughout the life of the earth, the construction industry is evergreen, so that in the evergreen industry we are using a huge amount of cement and other sand and aggregates. So there are, all those are naturally occurring materials, so that we need to protect those naturally occurring materials by using different industrial wastes and others, by improve the compressive strength and split tensile strength and other flexural properties of different elements which are located in the structure. So that we need to use these geosynthetics as a part with along with these waste materials which coming from the industries. Next one, fibers. These fibers also, in those fibers also we are having two types of fibers mainly depending upon their carbon content: degradable fibers, non-degradable fibers. Degradable fibers means normally in daily we are cultivating different kinds of crops. That means for our food purpose we are cultivating different kinds of crops like paddy and others, so that in those we are having huge amount of extra wastage. Those waste can be used to feed the cattle and others. In some of the crops we are having huge amount of fiber content, so that those will be used to constructional purpose to retain crack free structure. That means in a few parts of the buildings we will obtain these cracks due to less bonding between those silica and calcium. That means calcium which is present in the cement concrete cement and silica which is present in the sand, so that if there is a proper bonding is there, we will have to obtain calcium silicohydrate gel, CSH gel. That means CSH gel we will studied in concrete technology. Those CSH gel formation is proper, there is no cracks on the particular structure. If there is no proper bonding between them, you have to use some amount of external fibers like steel fibers, organic fibers, and crippled fibers, like that. In your projects you have to face these fibers. It means in your 4 2 semester you have your project work. In the project work you will have to use this some what of fibers to improve the strength properties of soil or any other or cement. Next one we are having these lime columns. Lime columns means lime is the major content we are having is calcium oxide and calcium carbonate. That means calcium carbonate and calcium oxide we are having. Those two components we are having lime as a major factor. That means 70 to 80% of lime is present in this calcium oxide and calcium carbonate, so that this lime is used to strengthen the soil. That means if we use lime in a particular soil strata, so that the soil structural properties will be increases due to its parameters, like it will be react with surrounding particles which are present in the soil, so that the total densification and strengthening will be occurs due to this lime utilization in a particular construction works below the ground level, not above the ground level, below the ground level. Next one we are having a vibro concrete column. This vibro concrete column means the columns normally we are using for a up below above the ground level. These columns normally we are using, but in case some cases below the ground level also we have to use these columns for parking purposes and other purposes, so that we need to have some vibro concrete columns. That means by using these vibro flotation techniques and vibration methods, we need to densify the particular strata of material like these concretes and other stone columns and others like that, so that the strength properties will be gradually increases due to these vibration methods and others. Next one we are having mechanically stabilized earth. Mechanically stabilized earth, that means not physically we are having it, means mechanically. So that mechanical properties like few properties will be increases due to this mechanical stabilization. In previous cells we are using these lime columns and stone columns, soil nailings, all those are physical. That means some part of the body. That means mechanized stabilization means by using these rollers and other footing works. Rollers means normally while we are having a construction of roads, that means bitumen tar roads, we will observe these vibrators and others, so that those comes under this mechanized stabilization of earth. In those rollers also we are having sheep foot rollers and smooth wheel rollers, pneumatic tire rollers, like that different kinds of rollers are there. All those rollers will be studied in this ground improvement techniques. Also you are studied in construction technology and management also. Now you are studying in your 4 1 construction technology and management. In that one and the ground improvement techniques we studied about these different kinds of rollers and their purposes and their factors, up to what level we have to use. All those are studied in this mechanized stabilization of earth. Next last one is the biotechnical. That means biotechnical means bio means living organisms, some amount of bacteria and others. That means only related to bacterial. In nowadays in after 2010 we are having bacterial concrete. That means some amount of fungus like materials are used to cure the concrete without having water. That means normally after the construction of any structural element we will use water to form CSH gel formation, calcium silicohydrate gel formation. That means without hydrogen there is no proper bond between calcium and silicate. To have this bonding, we need to have utilize this water as a curing member. Like different types of curings, we are having stream curing, pond curing, and membrane curing, like that. Depending upon the structural utility, we will have to adopt different kinds of these curing techniques. If the structure is importance is so high, we need to use huge amount of water. If the structural importance is so low, we need to use low quantity of water for curing purposes. Like that, we are having, like that, without water we are having these biotechnical properties. That means with the help of bacteria and viruses, not virus, only bacteria. Bacteria will have to cure the concrete. Next one is the ground improvement. Till now we studied only about ground reinforcement. That means in the reinforcement itself, some amount of fibers and other iron materials are used as a reinforcement materials, and normally ground matter, that means the soil will act as a cement material, so that the ground reinforcement part is over. After that, we are having these ground improvement techniques. That means ground improvement means simply we need to densify the particular soil. Densify means normally density are having units of kg per meter cube. That means in a particular 1 meter by 1 meter by 1 meter, normally different materials having different densities. Like steel we are having 7850, and concrete we are having 2450, like cement we are having 1440, and silica we are having different strengths depending upon their structural and molecular basis. Like that, we need to improve the density of the particular materials by using these ground improvement techniques. In those first one, we are having surface compaction. Surface means the top layer which is having, that is called as a surface of the particular structure. Those things we need to have surface compaction. That means compaction means normally in our concrete technology we will compacted the particular concrete mix by using these tampering rods in their flowability, workability properties, so that likely we need to do surface compaction by using these rollers and other mechanized equipments. That things comes under this surface compaction to densify the soil and remove whatever the voids present in the particular surface and above the and below the soil strata. If the voids are there, that means the density of the soil will be decreases. Likely there is a water penetration into the particular soil. In those conditions also we are having a less amount of density, so that we need to remove those things like voids. Next one, we are having a drainage or surcharge. That means drainage. Drainage means whatever the water due to external parameters like rains and other hilly areas, we are having normally steep slopes and terrain slopes. In those slopes also normally water will stacks, and the soil properties will be changes due to entrainment of this water. So that we need to avoid this water to strengthen the soil parameters and densify the soil, so that we need to have these drainage parameters and surcharge. That means simply we need to go and observe how much amount of water is there in the soil strata, in what condition we have to flow from that particular point. Is there any mechanical equipment required, or manually we need to then drain the water by the help of these small canals and other constructing parallel to the structure. That means parallel construction means if there is a huge amount of water, simply by decreasing the surcharge points at a particular levels, the total water will be flowing into another field or normally canals. In those cases, simply we have to decrease the water capacity on a particular strata of the soil. These things are comes under these drainage and surcharge properties. Next one, electro-osmosis. That means electro-osmosis completely differ. That means normally electric osmosis means normally we are using these different kinds of flowability and flowable materials like aluminum and other silica. We are having these electric flowability and osmotical conditions, so that these materials are used to drain the water in a particular soils. Those things comes under this electroosmosis. This process is mainly used for draining of water or evaporating of water. Next one, compaction and grouting. That means compaction means normally compacting the soil by using external parameters like manpower or mechanical power by using this grouting technique. That means grouting means after the densification is over, we need to have those density for a long life. That means we need to have the density properties for a long span of life, so that we need to have this grouting techniques on a top layer of the structure, so that there is no movement of the soil particles after the densification and grouting. Next one is the blasting. That means blasting. Whenever there is a blasting means huge amount of force will be evolved at a particular point, so that due to those evaluation of power, the surrounding materials and particles which are located near to the blast will be attained due to some constraints, like huge amount of compressive forces and others are occurring and evolved on those particular materials, so that due to these blastings also we need to improve the ground properties in few directions only. It not in 360 degrees, we will obtain only in few directions, like 60 degrees to 80 degrees in around a particular point. Next one is the dynamic compaction. This dynamic means normally dynamic అనే వర్డ్ని మనం ఎక్కడ యూస్ చేస్తామంటే ఈ యొక్క ఎర్త్ క్వేక్స్ ప్రాబబుల్ ఏరియాస్లో మనం యొక్క డైనమిక్ కాంపాక్షన్స్ అనేవి చేస్తూ ఉంటాం ఎక్కువగా. డ్యూ టు దిస్ డైనమిక్ కాంపాక్షన్స్ వీ విల్ యూస్ ది షీప్ ఫుట్ రోలర్స్. That means sheep foot rollers are different kinds of roller compared to normal. Those things are used to have this dynamic compaction. While the vehicle is moving on a particular direction, we will have to face some amount of waves which are coming from the particular soil. Those things we will observe in a particularly site. Those when the road is laying, particularly to remove the voids on the below surfaces, normally these vibrations will be fed to the below soil strata. Why? Because if there is no vibration, normally moving means only few parts of the soil will be densified. If you want to do densification below the ground level up to 1 or 2 meters, we have to use this dynamic compaction methods for suitable stabilization of the soil. Next one, we are having these ground treatments. That means ground ని మనం ట్రీట్ చేయాలి. Like this soil cement and lime admixtures, fly ash, dewatering, heating, freezing, and vitrification. That means soil or ground treatment means the top layer of the soil will be treated with some amount of additive materials like this soil cement. The soil will be mixed with the cement, and those mixture will be applied to the topmost layer of the soil to improve the properties and to control the erosion and different parameters which was occurring on those particular soil strata. And next one is the lime admixture. That means lime admixture. This lime admixture also in the previously we are having here lime columns in ground reinforcement. Likely we are having lime admixtures. That means lime is fed with some amount of admixtures, and those will be applied on the particular soil strata. In few places we don't want to have some amount of vegetation, so that in likely in those places we have to apply this kind of materials to control the excessive vegetation which was coming from that particular land, so that we need to use this kind of lime admixtures and other epoxy admixtures we have to use. Next one is the fly ash. Normally fly ash is a waste material which was coming from the industry, like our national thermal power corporation NTPCs we are having. In those NTPCs normally we are using coal as a material which to burn the to after burning the coal we will obtain this fly ash. In this fly ash also we are having different grades, class A, class B, class C, class D, like that. That means class A having more amount of attractive power. That means power, that means reactive power, not attractive power, reactive power with other materials, like that. Class D is less reactive compared to class A, like that we are having different categories in the fly ash, so that this fly ash is mainly used in the nowadays we are using in the brick industry, so that we need to utilizing it as a bricks in construction purpose. Likely whenever there is a huge amount of gap on a particular roads, so that those things also filled with the help of this fly ash, because fly ash is a fine powdered material. Due to a powdered material, it will be having a huge amount of power with surrounding elements and others, so that this fly ash will be used in different cases for different purposes of filling and treatment of this groundwater. Next one, we are having a dewatering. Dewatering means simply removing of particular amount of water which was present on the certain amount of soil. That means whenever we want to construct a high rise building in a particular soil of uh, of a particular area, that means we need to remove the total water which was located on a particular site, so that after the removing of site we need to have some amount of earthwork. We need to have remove from certain amount of earthwork from the particular place. After the earthwork is over, we need to have some amount of foundation. After the foundation we have to start our construction work, so that we need to use these dewatering techniques for the particular lands having construction purposes and other important purposes, so that whenever we are having to construct a particular bridges and other important transporting mediums on a particular rivers and others also, we need to use these dewatering methods for different constructions. Like in the bridges we are having piles and other piles foundations we have to do in a long span of length below the ground level, so that in those cases we need to have these dewatering techniques. Next one, we are having a heating and freezing. These heating and freezing techniques normally adopted in cold countries. That means in the cold countries they are having huge amount of snow load acting on a particular area. To control those snow loads and improve the soil parameters, they are using normally these freezing and thawing effects to control the particular amount of land for and improving the soil properties for ground treatments. Next one, vitrification. It is a newly available material, not newly available technique. That means vitrifications means some kind of equipments and other parameters and chemicals are used in this technique to densify the particular soil. All those comes under ground treatment. After listening all those different mechanisms involved in these three, we have to conclude that what is ground reinforcement means simply by using some amount of steel like materials to strengthen the soil. After that, we are having ground improvement means by using some amount of external additives to improve the soil parameters. After that, we are having ground treatment. That means we need to remove huge amount of particular material and we have to improve the soil properties. Those three things are one related to one to each other, but their process is entirely different. What is the benefits of these ground improvement techniques are? First of all, we need to increase the strength, reduce the distortion and under stresses. Next one, we are having reduce the compressibility. That means compressibility means normally this compressibility we will observe in the columns. That means columns we are having this compressibility property, beams we are having flexibility property. Okay, we need to understand those things according to these properties. This is the importance of this subject, and these are the different methods which are involved in our curriculum. Curriculum means in our 6 units we need to understand these different processes which are adapted to in different cases and different structures depending upon the soil parameters and materials available on those particular area.